From Texas, Mr. Green, who is also the chair of the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, regardless as to what anyone says, you are bending the arc of the moral universe toward justice. This hearing has been centuries in the making, and I'm proud that I'm here with you while you have the hands of justice making a difference in the lives of people.
Thank
I
you.
don't know of anybody else who would be doing this, Madam Chair. You're unique in all of history.
Wow.
Now, to my 6 friends, I have a question for you. If you find that your bank owned slaves or accepted slaves as collateral, would you publicly atone for this seminal sin? Mr. Solomon, a person of goodwill, would you publicly atone if you find that your bank owns slaves or accepted slaves as collateral? Yes or no, kindly, please, sir.
The bank has never owned slaves, so I don't think it's something that I'm in a position to opine on.
Well, let's just assume that you could be in error, sir. If you
We were
find
established.
that
We
you
were
did.
established. We were established in 1969, sir. We were
Well,
established in
sometimes things
1969.
happen
In
between
18, excuse me,
69.
18. We were established in 1869, and through our history, we never owned slaves. We had no involvement with slavery.
If you found that you did, would you atone?
I'm not going to speculate on something that's not correct, sir.
Quite regrettable, sir. Quite regrettable. Mr. Scharf, if you found that you owned them or had slaves as collateral, would you atone?
Yes, Congressman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Monahan, if you found that you had slaves as collateral or your bank owned them, would you atone, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gorman, if you found that your bank owned slaves or had them as collateral, would you atone?
Well, like Mr. Solomon, we were founded more recently, 1935, but yes, I would
The
atone.
question is, you would atone. Thank you. I appreciate it. Ms. Frazier, similar question to you. Frazier? I'm having some technical difficulties on my end. It may have something to do with the question, Madam Chair. Ms. Frazier, again, I'm having technical difficulties. Listen, Madam Chair, I'm going to have to ask if you would give me an additional minute of time. Something is happening.
I want to unmute. Okay, Mr. Green, you're absolutely correct. There is some problem, and I don't know what it is at this point. I will ask the staff to try and find out what is going on. Would you attempt to start? What is with his eyes? Okay. Would you try to start again, Mr. Green?
Yes, ma'am.
And we will certainly make up for the time.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Frazier, I'm now you. Ms. Frazier, I've got to tell you that I believe that some of the things that have been done on this committee are in part responsible for your occupying that seat. But be that as it may, Ms. Frazier, would you atone if you found that your bank owned or had slaves as collateral?
We would absolutely accept responsibility, yes. We believe we never have.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, Mr. Diamond, my dear friend, and I say that sincerely because of something that I know that you've done that was very positive. Mr. Diamond, at this hearing in 2019, you acknowledged that J.P. Morgan had accepted slaves as collateral, according to the bank's own analysis. But let's strike that. In addition, I would say Citizens Bank and Canal Bank in Louisiana, both now a part of J.P. Morgan, served plantations from the 1830s until the American Civil War. These banks sometimes took ownership of slaves when the plantation owners defaulted on loans. Between 1831 and 1865, these two banks accepted approximately 13,000 slaves as collateral and ended up owning about 1,250 slaves. Mr. Diamond, there can be no redemption without recompense. Mr. Diamond, will you atone? Will your bank atone for the ownership of human beings? Madam Chair, I cannot hear Mr. Diamond.
I cannot hear him either. Would you try again, Mr. Diamond?
You're muted, Mr. Diamond.
Mr. Green,
Yes, ma'am.
we're going to try and work this out. Staff, can you help me to find out what is happening? Mr. Diamond is indicating that he is not muted, but we can't hear him.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
As well as I.
Okay, I said that that the company did research and found out that companies have been bought many years earlier. In fact, did take collateral, slaves as collateral and ownership in some cases. We apologize profusely at the time. And as you know, we're making extraordinary efforts to help lift up the Black and the Latinx communities.
Mr. Diamond, the question is, will you atone in the form of some sort of redemption so that you may receive redemption? Because there can be no redemption without some sort of recompense. What will you do to atone for your banks owning human beings? This is not about what you're doing. All of the other banks are doing these things that you're talking about now. We're talking about the ownership of human beings, Mr. Diamond. What are you going to do about this? And I want it directly linked to the ownership. You must say, Mr. Diamond, we own them, and here's what we're doing to take corrective action. Find those families. Find those families that are still with us. Atone. Will you atone?
I would love to come see you and figure out what you think we could do that would atone properly to the families that were damaged by these activities 200 years ago. So I'd be happy to do that. I just can't make it vague.
I'm going to accept your offer. I'm going to accept your offer because once before you and I had an opportunity to resolve a circumstance, and we did. I accept your offer, and I look forward to meeting with you. And I'm going to ask that your staff contact my staff immediately so that we can arrange such a meeting.
Consider it done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The gentleman's time has expired.